Over 60 separate collaborative contributors have brought together 6 nominations for 9 categories for this year's 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards. And tonight, Ralfy and myself are going to share all of those with you. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards. I hope you're all doing very well. I hope that you've got something nice in the glass, depending on where you are. I know that it's 6 o'clock here. We've got a wee pour. I hope
cheers, Roy.
Cheers, Ralfy.
Can you believe another year, a whole year? It's just getting shorter and shorter as the demand for information and experience and advice about whiskey is getting longer and longer and more required.
And we're speaking to a more and more invested, more knowledgeable community every year that this ticks by, I think.
Very much so, Roy. And the internet itself has been such a game changer for the enthusiasts to communicate directly between ourselves, enthusiast to enthusiast, globally, and to create something original and authentic and bring it to the world of whiskey, which is what the OSWAs, the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, are all about. This is exciting, Roy.
It is, and we should clarify the online Scotch thing.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of questions about it. You don't need to be an onliner. The medium to deliver these awards is online. It's founded in online. It was birthed online. It was birthed inside YouTube, let's be honest. Yeah. But last year we expanded way beyond YouTube. More about that a wee bit later. But we also expanded into the real world as well. So we've now got retailers on board. We've now got people. I said last year, people behind bars. It sounded like they were coming in from prison.
Yeah, maybe some are, but we don't judge. It's fine.
That's right.
If you've done the crime and done the time, we're still happy to share a dram with you.
We're talking about people behind a bar, the people that are involved in guiding people face to face in their next pour, what their next drink's going to be. Mm-hmm. So you and obviously anybody that's a kind of a guiding hand on helping people choose quality, integrity products, helping people explore whiskey, helping people understand whiskey, no disinformation, no misinformation, all of that stuff, just good, honest, forward guidance. That's what we're after.
Absolutely.
Whether you're online or not, doesn't matter.
But we are sharing our journey as experienced whiskey drinkers. And there's many of you are very experienced whiskey drinkers now, and what we really want, we want the knowledge, we want the benefit of everybody's experience, so it's that when we're out connecting with whiskey or any other quality spirit, and when we are having that experience, it's a quality one. The quality of what we connect with and engage with in life helps to define the actual quality of our life. And I'm sure you agree, Roy, that something that both you and I are acutely aware of is, I can't show you what the notes are. These are for later. These are just, this is, I lifted them up by accident.
That's gold.
That's gold, there. Absolutely. Gold. Yeah, printed gold. These are the nominations, by the way. More about that shortly, because we know that's why you're watching. But we are really impressed by the quality of the dialogue and engagement within the whiskey tube and whiskey sphere and online. And both Roy and I really appreciate the more meaningful connectivity that we have as a result of our online commentary with many of the distilleries in and around Scotland and beyond Scotland, because the whisky is such a global phenomenon, not just the appreciation of Scotch whisky, but the availability of world whiskies. Things are changing so dramatically, and yet one thing doesn't change, and that is the recognition of really good whisky. So I anticipate, Roy, we're going to see some new whiskies this year being nominated by our 60, did you say 60?
In the end, 65 contributors.
65 contributors. That's quite a jump from where we started 3 years ago. And I think that it's going to be also the case that there are some familiar acquaintances, some bottles we already know really well, and everybody agrees.
Is that what you're looking for then? You're looking for continuity in these nominations, are you?
I'm looking for both. I'm looking for the continuity of recognizing good whiskies, which are really on our radar, and which we know when we go into the shop or go online to buy, we can say, do you know, that's money well spent. The distilleries are respecting us by delivering what their profession is to understand, to create, to mature, to bottle, and to sell to us. And you have this increasing dynamic between the customer and the seller, which never used to exist, even a few years ago, certainly before the internet. It was far more dictated through little humorous adverts and countryside cliches, to be honest, with heather and tartan and stags and deers that would appear in country life magazines and Scottish field magazines and in newspapers.
I have to say, I appreciate the diversity and the vibrance that we have in the online creators, whether they're creating for social media accounts, whether they're creating YouTube video content, whether they're writing. The diversity that we have, we don't need to take everything through a single magazine or anything anymore. We can choose the channels, the accounts, we can choose the places to go to enjoy our whiskey experiences.
Absolutely.
And we've never had as much choice as we have today. Some stick around some of us have been around for 13 or 14 years and are just about to put out our 1,000th whiskey review video.
It's been a struggle, Roy. But do you know what? I never gave up. I was determined. I'm going to buy another bottle of whiskey, open it, and tell you all about it, whether you want the information or not.
Absolutely, and it is an incredible achievement. Not everybody's going to make it to 14 years. I would love to. There's a lot of other much newer, younger channels out there as well. Really enjoying being part of the scene.
Can I share something with you, Roy?
Of course. We're just waiting on folk to get comfortable.
Absolutely.
Pour a wee glass, sit down, and then we'll spill all the gold.
As I come up to Ralfy Review 1000, which will be happening sometime in October, I've been kind of reflecting and looking at some of the earlier videos that I recorded. And of course, it's still there on YouTube, despite the challenges that I've faced over the last 14 years with getting demonetized, getting complaints. I was threatened with a lawsuit at one point by an American distiller, which didn't come to much, funnily enough, which is good, because I'm kind of careful. I know where the boundaries are, where the borders are between, saying giving an opinion and actually legitimately causing defamation and all the rest of it. It's something we always have to be mindful of, Roy, about. But when I started, literally, it was dial-up. So you had to unplug the phone line, right? And then plug in your computer line and wait for it to boot up. And then it would take 4 or 5 hours to upload a straightforward, low-resolution video. And, YouTube had only been going 4 years. And it was absolute the Wild West out there. Now, in all credit to the industry, the first real whiskey channel was Single Malt TV. And they've done a fantastic job as formally and orthodoxly ambassadoring for the whiskey industry. But really, there's so much attention going on to the geeks, the enthusiasts, the amateurs who have been very, very supportive, I have to say, generally, for the Scotch whisky industry. And I know that there are a few folk, the people that have the real jobs in the industry, they do appreciate the onliners.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. We do try our best, and some of us, we always lead with passion. We always try to lead with integrity and things like that. We are amateurs.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people talking about being amateur. There's a few people suggesting that the sound is a wee bit off tonight. It shouldn't be. We have checked the mic. We did check everything beforehand. It should be all good, but
well,
hopefully
there's a little bit of there's a mic just above us, out of shot. You can't see it.
It's lit up,
and it's all lit up. It's all green, little green LEDs, which is probably a sign. That looks muted. That's unmuted.
I mean, we just need to run with it now because we're doing this thing. So hopefully, chime in and say, "Sound is good." It says Overland Rams. Fantastic. Good evening, Roy. You do sound good. Ralphie sounds a bit digital, not bad. But just a minute, just a minute ago, somebody was saying it was the other way around. Listen, we've got something going on. It's not within our control, I suspect. We did a retest and everything beforehand. It's a little tinny, but not bad.
Wonderful.
We just run with it then, Jimmy, will we? Jimmy likes in Scotland. It's quite amazing. Hope to see him a wee bit later. Thanks to Whisky Central. Thanks to Shayla. She's involved in this very project. It's nice to have you on board.
Yes.
And as thanks to Whisky Wings Mike as well, who've both got us to get things going. Listen, Whisky Wings, Mike, I think it's Mike Duncan. They will be involved next year. They're honest supporters this year. They haven't been involved in the process this year because one of the rules is that you have to have been doing your thing for a year and within the last year. And they just fall outside of that for the Honest to Malt podcast. They're on board as supporters. Circling back round again to the other part of that online Scotch Whisky Awards, the Scotch thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we're talking about the Scotch element of it is it's not to exclude other whiskies. We're here to talk about any whiskies that are bringing good quality, integrity, value, whatever it is that enthusiasts are enjoying today.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Scotch whisky community that's speaking. That's Ralphie's comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's my comfort zone, Scotch whisky. We love our Irish whiskies. We love to dabble. We love to see what's happening in world whiskies. We love our different grains. We also love different spirits and wherever we can enjoy flavour. But this award scheme is founded within the Scotch community, and that's very much where it's focused on. It's almost speaking on behalf of the people in the Scotch whisky scene that want to get involved, and I hope that makes sense. That's why it's online, and that's why it's Scotch. That's why it's called the OSWAs. Anyway, I think that we've established what you're after. I would like to see some continuity. I would like to see some consistency. I agree. Things happen and change quickly in Whisky Ralphie.
They do,
but not so quickly that we should see. The first online Scotch Whisky Awards was only 2 years ago, 2021. We shouldn't see all the things that were being celebrated then or in 2022 suddenly thrown out because we need some new exciting nominations. I think what we need to see from our group of core contributors this year, refined by the wider group of 65 contributors, we need to see a mix of continuity and consistency with some new entries in there as well. I hope that we see the OSWAs always being a reflection of the changes that's happening in the wider whisky world.
I would say that in the first year of the OSWAs, well, we're just literally getting to understand the mechanism and the formula that we had really carefully thought about, that we had 24 contributors to provide the nominations. Now, this year, the third year, we've more than doubled that to 65. And I think that's going to have an impact because there's going to be literally a less narrow and a broader consensus of opinion and perspective in these nominations. And it really is, I'm curious just to see how things are morphing.
What's interesting about that growth is that when we started off, Ralphie and I had to go out to all these other people and pitch an idea to them. That's not happening now. These people, these contributors that have come on board, the majority of them are coming to us.
Yeah.
And they're coming and saying, we're loving what you're doing. Can I get involved in this? How do I get involved? The more people that are involved, the more word that we have out there that they can testify to the integrity of these awards. These are not Ralphie's nominations or awards, and these are not Roy's nominations or award. They would both our sets would look different to what we have tonight.
It would, yeah.
This represents a much bigger thing than any one individual. So if you do want to get involved, please step forward. Please get in touch with us, info@oswa.co.uk, or you can just click on the oswa.co.uk website, go to the contributor section, and all the details there of what you need in order to be part of this and how to become part of this. I have to be honest here, the admin that's involved, 65 is starting to get. But listen, we can't constrict it.
Yeah.
If people want to get involved and they're legitimate and they've got a case to be involved, that's what it's all about from day one. Yes, let's get involved. Let's get involved.
And I think it's also worth mentioning at this stage, as we present the nominations leading up to the big announcement at the beginning of November, that we're really, both Roy and I are very appreciative and want to give a big shout out to our Patreon subscribers, because Roy's got his Patreon channel and I have my Patreon channel, and it's you Patreon subscribers who pay the money you give us. We fund the OSWAs 100% for 100% independence, and so thank you, because you are really important link in making the OSWAs meaningful, significant, and retaining its authenticity. So thanks all you Patreon pals.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, I've not sent you your invoice this year.
Have you not? Not yet. Well,
but seriously,
make sure I've had a few drams first.
I think anybody that's kind of supporting any content creators out there, you know, especially after this project, but take pride in what we're doing. Danny has just said that he's been watching Ralphie longer than he's been watching the television series.
Really?
That's what spurred me on to become a Patreon supporter, because I realised I was watching more Whiskey Tube content than any subscription service I had.
Yeah.
And I realised if I wanted to endure, I had to pay for it.
Now, people have been asking about, I've noticed this, a few of the comments here, Ralphie's got a new bonnet. So can I just, let folk know about this bonnet? Things morph, things evolve. And when I first attended Whisky Festivals, having a channel, it was important that I be recognisable informally. No announcements, no banners, no flannel, nothing like that. I just wander around with a wee dram in my hand. And so long as I've got the jacket on, as long as I've got the bonnet on, people know who I am. But it was really, really warm, because Whisky Festivals are very warm events. And so, first of all, I took the lining out of my bonnet to make it a little bit lighter. But latterly, I've got this straw bonnet. Look at that.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's a summer bonnet.
It's a summer bonnet. And the great thing is, it breathes very well. So I can wear a bonnet at whiskey events and my head's not starting to boil.
Aye. That's a very, very good idea.
It's big. Things evolve, Roy.
I'm jealous of your head of hair there, Ralph.
Are you?
Philip in Switzerland is sitting watching with his entire family, and he's done fantastic. Philip, great to welcome everybody in tonight. Everybody's starting to get comfortable. We're over 400 people in.
Marvellous.
I think what we want to do is try and clip through things quickly. I know that for a lot of you, the big event is the 4th of November. We'll announce. Let's go through quickly an executive summary of how this whole thing works. Core contributors get together. This year there were 18 core contributors selected to come up with the best nominations they possibly could for each of the 9 categories. But then they had to ask their fellow contributors, the other 65 contributors, for these nominations to pass muster. They had to go out and work with everybody to get their endorsement on those nominations that went forward, and through that refinement and voting process, that's what gave us our top 6 in each of the 9 categories. That's what we're going to share with you tonight. That's the nominations after that process has been completed. We closed it earlier this week on Monday night. I think we closed it. Actually kept it running for another 12 hours. A few latecomers came in and put their votes in on Tuesday morning. We closed it Tuesday morning, honestly, and we've been preparing for this session ever since. What happens after we share all of these nominations with you tonight? This very evening, on the Online Scotch Whisky Awards website, oswa.co.uk, we will put the nominations on there for you all to see and browse through them. We will also put up a page with full instructions that you can log in and vote. You can vote for each of these nominations. If you feel that these nominations are representative of things that you're enjoying, that you feel fit the values of the OSWAs, quality, integrity, value, accessibility, all of these things, you can endorse that by giving it your vote. Everybody gets a chance to put 2 votes in each category. Or if you don't feel that you can make a meaningful vote, a meaningful endorsement, you can skip the category. If it's not something that you would buy yourself, repurchase, or recommend to a friend, you can simply skip the category.
Yeah.
Furthermore, everybody gets the opportunity to have their own voice heard through the wildcard People's Choice. That's not for an award. We will publish what the People's Choices are as a top 10 chart for each of the categories. That's how we're going to run this thing. So after we finish tonight, as soon as the credits stop rolling tonight, you'll be able to click on oswa.co.uk, go and place your votes. There is also the option for you to go through that process and give us feedback or ask us anything type thing. I think it's the people are starting to work out the dynamics, how it works. They're starting to understand the structure. They're starting to understand that even if there was somebody to be coerced or given free stuff or somehow asked to put something forward, the chances of actually getting through all of those barriers, all of those hoops to jump through, it's almost impossible. Believe me, if that was a possibility, I think Ralphie and I would be trying to find ways to push our own favourites. We've set it up so that we can even get our favourites forced or pushed through. We just need to let the chips fall where they may.
Absolutely. We've thought it all through. How could say a big whiskey company, we look at the dynamics of it, and suppose a whiskey maker out there says, right, I want to get nominated and I want to win it, so I'm going to bribe members of staff, family, friends, and anybody I can persuade to go and vote for us. The thing is, we'll notice the pattern in the algorithm. It's like that.
Well, you need the biggest protection that we have there is that we need to do this on a shoestring, believe me.
Yeah.
And we're very, very fortunate. We pay Google. We've got a business suite Google package for the OSWAs, and we pay for that. But what it does mean is that when you vote, you do have to sign in with a Google account. But if you're in here watching Ralphie and myself on YouTube, you've already got a Google account. So you then have to register a new Google account for every time you want to place a vote. One vote and another 5,000. You're not going to bother. You're not going to waste your time, surely. And as Ralphie says, as soon as somebody does that and tries to break that, then that would be a shame, because we're trying to do this integrity forward first. But we would see it. We would spot it.
It would be noticed. So,
that said, we always lead with trust with everything. If we lead with trust, we hopefully encourage trust. And that's the only way that these things can work. If we all had a lot more trust in the world, I think we would all have nicer things. So we do our wee best as we stumble forward here. I don't know, Ralphie, is there anything else you'd like to, for the folk are in now that you know this?
Well, everybody's in, everybody's settled, poured their wee drams. So I think we should get stuck in here, Roy.
Put the wheels on.
Absolutely. Let's put the wheels on the OSWAs 2023.
Okay. I'll try my very best to try and run this from my wee station here. Listen, good luck to everybody. I know that you've been waiting a wee while for this. I know that since the last OSWAs was finished, actually you've been looking forward to this. So we'll shift off to the side and we'll hand the screen over to let everybody know what's happening here. I'm going to run through a couple of facts and stats for everybody first. Oh, that's okay. Just to give people a wee update on how we're doing and things. Welcome everybody to the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards. I'm going to enjoy this tonight. First up, I want to talk about the obvious anxiety that's been there since the start. It's abated a little bit. We've managed to work out and work with people, and people have worked out that this is not the risk that they thought it once was going to be. But if people see that something's been nominated or indeed something has won, there is an opportunity there that they might decide to bump up the retail price. If that is happening, we will use guide pricing. When you see all of these nominations get put up tonight, there is a guide price put up based on the average UK market price. We know it's not going to be the same everywhere. We run into this trouble everywhere. The internet doesn't recognise borders, but currencies and markets very much do. So we give you the UK-based prices, and you can take a guide from that. It's the best that we can do. If you see price hikes happening, pre-post OSWAs or whatever it is, certainly if you see people advertising the OSWAs and using that to hike prices, please call it out. Let us know. Take to your social media, do whatever you can, but talk about it. Like I say, we lead with trust and we lead with honesty here. We would love to see that, and we did, and we have got already on board with the OSWAs. We have a list on our website of fair and ethical retailers. And these retailers pledge that until their stock is diminished or the end of the calendar year for the OSWAs, they will not increase the prices on anything. Some of our ethical retailers, hats off to you all, reduced the prices to celebrate the OSWAs. There you go. Incredible, incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Let's talk a wee bit about the contributor growth that we've already. We just need to celebrate this. And I know that Ralphie wants to say a few words of thanks to all of you for leading with trust on that count. But in 2021, when we kicked this thing off, we went to our pals on YouTube, is what we did. The trusted people, it was a dry run. We needed to see if this thing could work. And it worked. And 24 people stepped forward with trust and could pull it off. In 2022, last year, we opened up way beyond YouTube to lots of other outlets where people get whiskey guidance from, and we more than doubled the scale of the OSWAs. And this year, we opened it up to anybody that was willing to step forward to let that grow. So organically, we've got another growth on last year. We're up to 65, as Ralphie mentioned earlier, 65 contributors. That's people with YouTube channels, people with podcasts, people online commentators, social media channels, people writing about whiskey, people in retail space, and people behind the bar, wherever you pour or get your drams of whiskey poured. That can only grow in the future. We have the ability to, despite the administration that's involved when it gets up to 65, 75, 85, however, 100 people, 100 contributors, we have the ability to manage them. We're getting good at automating things now. So if you want to get involved, please step forward.
Yeah.
Something that's new, completely new this year, and I have to say that there's only two very, very minor tweaks this year. We're quite happy with the way things went last year, and we want things to be understood. So if we change it up every year, it's dangerous. We like the fact that it's quite simple and quite straightforward at the moment, and we need to keep that running. Yeah. But new for 2024, we're going to celebrate the people who are able to achieve an OSWAs trifecta. What does that mean? If somebody is so good at what they do that the people that vote for them cannot see past their product, that has to be celebrated. That has to be marked.
Mm-hmm.
A winner in 2021 and a winner in 2022, which is already a thing. We've already seen it in some of the categories. Mm-hmm. People managing a double. If they manage a treble, if they manage a trifecta, they will be given in 2024 a special trifecta award as a marker of them stepping back for a year to allow other people time in the limelight.
Yeah.
But rather than them being placed on some kind of naughty step, we will celebrate that achievement, and they will have a fourth award automatically given to them to go alongside their hat trick of awards. They will be given an OSWAs trifecta award.
Great idea, a good solid innovation, and I think that we may well see. We don't know for sure because it's up to the voters. It's up to you placing your votes, but we may see one of the categories receive a trifecta certificate situation. It may well happen, and so the timing of that is perfect. And importantly, when a business is so good at what they do and bring the authenticity, then just to sit back for a year and let another distillery have a shot
and still be recognised and awarded for it, right?
And still be recognised for it with a fairly unique, in fact, totally unique award. It really is something special.
And we can see that it's happening because the knowledge, the appreciation out there, people know what's happening behind the scenes. Distilleries are not black boxes. People can see when real integrity, real quality is brought forward. They can taste it, and they can look behind the scenes to see where it's come from. Like no time in the past, honestly. It's so we need to recognize when somebody is successful and not punish them for their success, but rather reward it and find a mechanism in order to let other people who are having similar success and building towards that same success have some time as well. So that's our idea. There's one other small tweak that I want to talk about as well, Ralphie, and you and I have been involved in this, and it just made sense, and we didn't know why we did it from the start. But let's say Roy and Ralphie get to sit down and make our nominations, vote for our things, and help curate and refine the nominations that we're going to share with you tonight. What about another channel that's out there, and there's 2 people involved in the channel, or 4 people or more? What about if it's a writing team and a website like Malt Review or Dramface? What about if there's more people involved than just one? They've got to work together to try and kind of find some consensus before they can even approach or interact with the OSWAs. No, that's silly. Sorry. If each of you individually meet the criteria that we set out as guiding hands for the OSWAs, each of you individually have the ability to step forward and vote.
Yes.
It just makes sense.
Absolutely.
Everybody has their own opinion, and nobody needs to compromise that opinion in order to get involved in the OSWAs. So that has been officialised this year. So from here on in, if you're a Scotch 4 Dummies in Indiana, Scotch Test Dummies, 2 and 4 people. I think about the 20 writers at Dramface, probably 20 writers at Malt Review as well. All of these people, if they meet that criteria and they're from the Scotch community, they should have their say, and we've made that change. So that automatically I can see that 65. If we change nothing, that 65 will grow next year with those changes in place. I hope that makes sense, everybody. I think there's not much else for me to do other than get the thing rolling.
Absolutely. Let it roll, Roy. Let it roll.
Let's give you a wee overview of our first category. How are we getting on? We're almost 500 folk. If we've kept them waiting long enough.
Absolutely.
Our first category obviously changed from the opening year when we were trying to budget and constrict things. We changed that completely. This has now been changed since last year to best value whiskey. Value is a subjective thing. One person's value is going to be different from somebody else. But we asked people to put forward what they thought was the whiskies that is providing the best value wherever they are.
So it's not the cheapest. It's not the most budgety. It's the whiskey which represents value in quality and directly relation to the cost and availability.
Somebody's saying they lost audio. Let's hold for a second. We need to keep speaking, I suppose.
We do, yeah.
In order for people to.
If we just go quiet, then the audio's definitely lost.
That's Jim Morse. It looks like you're on your own, Jim. It just might be you that's lost audio. I hope you're okay. I hope it's bad. It's not too bad. So yes, cheap is rather saying it's not. We don't mean cheap. Right? Cheap and value are 2 different things. However, here's what people put forward. Take it away, Ralphie.
Thank you, Roy. I'll put on my best BBC diction now and present the nominations for the 2020 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Value Whisky, which are as follows. Ardnamurchan AD at 46.8%. Arran 10-year-old at 46%. Bruichladdin, the classic laddie, at 50%. Kilkerran 12-year-old at 46.3%. Lechake 10-year-old at 46.3%. And Port Charlotte 10-year-old at 50%.
Now,
Right.
I've been monitoring the comments there as they rolled in, Ralphie.
Yeah.
I can tell you there's a few people not going to be happy. Craigallachie 13's been mentioned a few times, always popular in the People's Choice, certainly. I'm not going to suggest, I'm not going to tell what was involved in the voting before we got to the top 6, whether that was there or not, but it's absolutely valid. We reiterate again, and we're going to need to say this throughout tonight, it's not Ralphie's picks, it's not my picks. This is the consensus. This is the top 6.
And it's interesting that we have a nomination in there of Port Charlotte, which people are regularly flagging up as having a significant price hike. So does it still represent, in your opinion, a value whiskey, best value whiskey for 2023? And again, it's your vote. This is where your vote comes in. If you think that Port Charlotte is overpriced, don't vote for it. I mean, you've got some absolutely great, in my opinion, great value whiskies there. And let's start. There's 2 that stand out to me: Arran 10-year-old and Lechake 10-year-old. In terms of the price you pay for the value you get. Having said that, that's only my personal opinion. And I don't want to be swaying you and sort of directing you in this. I want you to have a real good think about it for when you're using your vote.
I would also suggest that I take your comments about the price of Port Charlotte 10, but I'm also hearing a lot of people talking about the quality has either been maintained or in some people's opinions improved. And we should not forget, we've got from that same distillery on Islay, we've got 2 entries here in the best value category. And both of them are fully natural. We never have a concern about that. Fully transparent and open, and at 50% ABV. That's more expensive to put that stuff together, especially with the 10-year age statement. So we should remember that. No surprise to me that we've got Arran 10 back in the mix again. No surprise that we've got Kilkerran 12 and Lechake 10. It's probably one of the most celebrated age-dated whiskies that we have. And if you love peaty whiskey, I hope you're connecting with Lechake 10 as well as anything. And of course, what is interesting to me is the best value whiskey is actually from one of our youngest distilleries. Ardnamurchan with their AD. This is first launched in 2020. They struggled to keep it on the shelf for a couple of years. It was just flying off the shelf. Recently, we're seeing it stick now. People are getting their Ardnamurchans and they're managing to put it then in more markets. So this is why this has popped up. People are tasting the liquid now at £45, 46%, 8.8 ABV. Fully natural. People are celebrating it. I look at that 6 lineup and I can see emissions. Of course, we can only allow 6 through. It's the OSWAs. But I can also see, if that was my shelf at home for me to share with folk, I've got everything covered.
Absolutely.
Maybe that with the one exception of a good sherry cask, I would say.
It's very true what you say, Roy. If you, as a whiskey enthusiast anywhere, if you were to go out into a specialist retailer and online and just select 6 whiskies, you'd be off to a very, very good start with your whiskey collection. You've got a combination of peated, unpeated, and you have got the authenticity, the integrity of delivery, because none of these are at 40%. And furthermore, none of these are chill filtered. That really jumps out, doesn't
every
it?
Single whiskey there is a natural whiskey. We've noticed this in the OSWAs. That's what we would expect to see. It's not a demand. We don't demand this. We just want your interpretation of what that may be. But there you go, the top 6 brought forward for nomination in 2023. Now, if we talk about continuity and consistency versus, we've got new entries here. We've got Ardnamurchan, we've got Bruichladdich, we've got Port Charlotte 10. We've got 3 for 3, I think. And then 3 that have appeared previously, the Arran 10, Kilkerran and Lechake. Exactly what we would hope to see, a 50-50 split there. But like we say, we're not designing this, it's taking care of itself.
It's really taking care of itself. And I tell you what, for the OSWAs 2023, that's off to a good start.
It is, I would say, that's a good wee selection of whiskies there. Let's see if we can maintain that, Ralphie, through the rest of the categories. Will we just keep going through?
Let's keep going on to the next category, Roy.
Okay, the next category is something that, let's be honest, we need to just address the elephant in the room. We talk about the Scotch whisky community. We're very often talking about the inverse of what what Scotch whisky actually is. Scotch whisky is by volume 90% grain whisky, blend,
Yeah.
and 10% single malt. Not by value, of course, but when you talk about our community, that's flipped. 90% of us, we love our malts.
We do.
We love barley. That's just the truth of it. So when we go through these other categories, that's to suggest that we will not be held ransom because we love malts. We will go elsewhere for other grains. We will go elsewhere for other countries' products, other takes on whiskey. We will celebrate our barley or malt whiskey. We can't hide from it. It betrays us. But we will go elsewhere, and that includes blended whiskey.
Yes.
We do see a drop in participation when it goes out to the public vote for blends, but I am suspicious that's changing. Will this betray that?
But blended whiskies, Roy, are an intrinsic part of the Scotch whisky landscape, and it would be snobby of us to simply ignore it as if when there are blended whiskies out there, traditional blended whiskies, which are interesting. They have a quality to them. And even when we're in our flavor chase, which we are, and we tend to refer constantly to single malts, there are other options out there. And perhaps we need just to remind ourselves that a blended whiskey can deliver an authentic value experience.
But it's incumbent upon the producer's shoulders as well.
Very much so.
They can't just keep bringing us these big mass market brands that have been, let's be honest, for various reasons, various dynamics, feeling like they're getting less engaging as the years tick by. 40% ABV, a wee bit rough at times. If we do want to explore blends, we need more options. I'm sorry. We need better, higher quality things brought onto the board. So I'm writing up here, historically, over the history of whiskey, some of the most celebrated whiskies ever are blended whiskies. And this is their category. Take it away, Ralphie.
Thank you. And the nominations for the 2023 online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Blended Whisky are as follows. Chivas Regal 18-year-old at 40%. Cutty Sark Prohibition at 50%. Dewar's Double Double 21-year-old at 46%. Johnny Walker Black Label 12-year-old 40%. Maclean's Nose Blended Scotch Whisky at 46%. And Thompson Brothers TB-BSW 6-year-old at 46%. Now, I think we really need to explain to the viewers, Roy, the Thompson Brothers TB-BSW, what does that mean?
It's just simply a wee bit of a tongue twister. Thompson Brothers is TB, and BSW is blended Scotch whisky.
Fantastic. I mean, sometimes it's so obvious that you think there's some sort of secret code.
Right.
But what a mixture of whiskies we have here. Some are immediately recognizable, and they are standard. They're 40%. They are certainly chill filtered. They will have a drop of caramel colour in them.
Some of them. Yeah.
Some of them, yes. But others, you've got at 40%, you've got 46%, you've got at 50%. So there's really quite diversity here within the Scotch blended whisky category in this year's nominations. And I find it quite interesting that you have Maclean's Nose blended whisky, which I've certainly bought a bottle recently and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. And also Thompson Brothers, who are really ploughing quite an interesting little furrow for themselves with the good quality, slightly eccentric, innovative bottlings that they're bringing out at accessible prices. And here they are sitting side by side with something which everybody recognises, and that's Johnny Walker Black Label. So what's your opinion, Roy?
This tickles me. This category tickles me. I've got lots of ways that I could slice and dice this. So if we look at the continuity and consistency from previous years, I think the only things that we have is Cutty Sark Prohibition and Thompson Brothers, because that appeared last year. These are two completely different takes on blended category, which in themselves are different. They're different from each other, but they're different from what we typically associate blends to be. If we look at the new ones that's in, it's super interesting. We've got the more recognisable brands, Johnny Walker and Chivas Regal there, ploughing their wares at 40% ABV, helping a lot of people into the category who are going to find themselves in a much better condition than they did 5 years ago. Because when they step over, the things that's waiting to greet them in this category now is so interesting. Now, we've got a luxury product here at £120. I haven't tried this double 21-year-old Ralphie. I don't know if you have, but now I'm keen to try it.
Well, I haven't, and the eagle-eyed of you OSWA viewers will notice on the label of the Dewar's Double that it's 500 milliliter bottle. It's a 50 centiliter bottle, and I have trouble with that, Roy, because I always regard it as a short measure bottling, but I still review these bottlings myself just occasionally. But it's down to the quality.
You need to add on another 48 pounds on top of that to come up with 168 pounds would be the price for a 70cl bottle.
Absolutely. But having said that, you have what is arguably a very good quality blend bottled at 46% instead of 40%, which means Dewar's don't have to chill filter it if they don't want to.
And it's grain whiskey as well, so it doesn't really need chill filtering for the majority grain. It's the malt component that tends to need the chill filtering.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting here is it betrays a lot of things that's kind of happening with Bacardi Dewar's. Their Altmore has been a fantastic selection of malts. Craig Ellicky, it's already been mentioned in the stream tonight. Dewar's, there are people behind the scenes at Dewar's that are getting it.
Absolutely.
And working it out. 500 mils, maybe it's expensive stuff going into this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they're bringing it out to market. But clearly, it's a premium product. There are people out there buying this and enjoying it, else it wouldn't have got through.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
I am so encouraged to see these 6 nominations measuring the changing seas that we're seeing in blends. We've still got Johnny Walker in there. Yes.
Yeah.
We've still got Chivas 18. I actually quite enjoy that Chivas 18. I think it's a tasty drop. The last time I had a bottle, it's appeared in a recycled review. But what we've got with the red is much higher ABV, much more flavour, much more integrity. That Thompson Brothers will not last forever.
No.
Unless Dornoch gets up to speed and they're able to keep it going, they can actually start to add their own malt into the mix there. I don't know that's available now. It's not going to be around forever, and I can tell you that I know that to be good whiskey. McLean's Nose, again, a fabulous take on a blend, 70% malt.
Yeah.
70% malt in that whiskey.
And it's come out of absolutely nowhere. There was never any big fanfares or press releases about McLean's Nose. And this is something that distillers are increasingly aware of. Distilleries are recognising is they don't need the fanfares. They can simply pop out the product and it's very quickly found. And if the quality's there, if the price is good, people will discuss it online. And that is where the vitality and recognition is for making bottles like McLean's Nose visible. And I found out about McLean's Nose from people who comment on my channel, Roy.
Yep.
That's the way I found out, because it's very much when we are doing our content and engaging online, this is a two-way process. And as much as viewers are looking at these nominations, I'm looking at them for the first time as well myself, because you've compiled them and got them all organised. And I think it just makes it more interesting for our commentary that suddenly we actually see pictorially very nice images, by the way. Done a great job there, mate.
No, it's Rob Halford.
Rob, right? So Rob Halford, I tell you what, mate, smashing images, spot on, hasn't gone unnoticed. Thank you.
We try. He's been working very hard to help me with the assets behind the scenes and everything. But this isn't the only thing I do for the workload. Certainly, it's nice to have support.
And you're still recovering from your week at Springbank, turning all that barley. It's no wonder they automate the process.
That's right.
How's your back? Is it any better yet?
I was really quite pleased, and I was impressed at how much I could just knuckle down, and I wasn't complaining. My knees were complaining, my back was complaining for sure.
Yeah.
But then you see these guys that do it every single day, just mocking in, and for you to put or complain, it's just rude. Anyway, we do digress. We do have more categories to share with you here. I think that they will continue to offer us opportunities to make commentary on them. So let's machine through them as quick as we can. The next one can be a wee bit confusing. We separated it out last year for that very reason, because we believe that it is a separate category with opportunities to grow on its own in its own rights. So we separated it out to give best blended malt whiskey its own category. So a blended whiskey is made with a mix of malt whiskey and grain. That's what blended whiskey is, whether it's blended Scotch or whatever. Of course, it's on like Scotch Whisky Awards, so we follow the Scotch definitions for blending. But if you blend two malt whiskies together, two single malt whiskies, what you end up with is blended malt. That means it's different from blended Scotch. It is still 100% barley, still 100% malt whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's a fast-growing category.
And also, Roy, it tends to be a really good value category in terms of you're getting away from that single malt premium. And if you get a combination of good single malts from two distilleries or more, that you have this unique flavor profile, which can be much more affordable than the more premiumized single malts. And in that respect, it also allows the producers to exercise a bit more consistency in their bottlings.
Yeah.
Because the blending matters.
Takes care of that.
Blending takes care of that.
And I think malt whiskey teaches you to appreciate and embrace inconsistency, differences between batches. But if you want something that can be guaranteed to not drop below a minimum quality threshold, any kind of blending is going to help you overcome that. Anyway, Ralphie,
take it away.
Take it away, please.
And the nominations for the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Blended Malt Whisky are as follows. Big Pete at 46%. Campbellton Loch at 46%. Compass Box No Name at 48.9%. Compass Box Orchard House at 46%. Douglas Lang's The Galdrons at 46.2%. And Thompson Brothers SRV 5 8-year-old at 48.5%. Back to you, Roy.
Well, again, you would think we'd designed this. This is incredible because we have 3 bottles, to my memory, that have appeared in previous Online Scotch Whisky Awards. That is the Campbellton Loch, the Compass Box Orchard House, and Thompson Brothers SRV 5 8-year-old. Interesting. We'll come back to them. We've got 3 brand new entries here. We've got a premium product in Compass Box's No Name, same as a premium entry in the blended category.
Yeah.
So there are people out there still willing to spend where they perceive quality. Douglas Lane, we've got a new entry in here, which is crazy because Big Pete is probably one of the most recognizable blended malts on the market.
Very much so.
For a long time. And also from the same range from Douglas Lane, we've got their Campbelltown blend, which is the Galdrons.
Yeah.
A 50 quid Campbelltown blend. So in this lineup, we've got 2 Campbelltown blended malts in Campbellton Loch and Douglas Lane's at Galdrons. We've got 2 from Compass Box and we've got 2 from Douglas Lane. Interesting. What we do have is that same thing happening again. 3 from previous OSWAs, and 3 brand new entries.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's worth, just as a little added extra, pointing out that you may be wondering, with the Thompson Brothers SRV 5, what does that mean? Again, there's a little bit of blatant coding, but it's quite straightforward. I hope I get this right. It's Solera Reserve Vatted 5. That's what it is.
Nearly. Yeah. Station, but that's a good way to remember it, actually. So, Reserve VAT, because that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
But Station Road VAT 5 is, I think, what they originally called it.
Station Road.
Yes.
Oh, that's cryptic.
Yeah, it's cryptic.
I think we're going to stick to Solera Reserve.
Solera Reserve is idyllic, actually. They have, I believe, and I'm going to try and I'm going to get this wrong, it's a 1,200 litre VAT. So once the whiskey goes in, it doesn't age anymore. It has to be a minimum of 8-year-old in order for it to keep the age statement. And then they bottle it, but they leave 400 litres in there each time.
Yes.
And they fill it up again. So the theory there is a typical Solera system, that there are components in that whiskey that's going to continue to add complexity through the Solera system.
Again, something that's relatively unusual in Scotch whisky, but very familiar in European wine growing regions. And I think that when we understand the technique, it makes this blended malt all the more interesting because of that awareness. And with the other blended malts, I think that what we're looking at is quality and good value. I have had a few recent comments on my channel that Compass Box have brought out a batch which isn't as good as previous batches. But that's part of the online discussion. This happens regularly, and it's something we just have to be aware of, and then check not just the brand and the label, but when it's bottled, the year it's bottled, the batch of the bottling. This is the added knowledge which online and the online Scotch Whisky
And we
Awards,
love to geek out about that.
and we're
don't we?
geeking out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that if you were to then counter that with, for example, the Station Road VAT 5, this Thompson Brothers release here, some people who like a more kind of sherried style of whiskey were raving about the newer batches being better.
Yeah.
For me, my style of whiskey is much more spirity. I was kind of preferring the first releases, but you can't take it away that the newer ones, they have easily reached that minimum acceptable quality. And in my opinion, if we embrace malt whiskey and if we accept malt whiskey for what it is, part of that appreciation is to accept that there is batch variation.
There is. It's inevitable. And furthermore, the more experienced we get, the more we pick up on it. It's just the whole landscape of enjoying and appreciating whiskey. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to get to one of the other kind of more tricky, slightly clumsier categories, if I'm critical myself, but this needs to stay. I don't care how clumsy it is. It's very important that we do this. We've been talking malt. The three of us was right. The last three categories, even though we've been blends, some of them, it's been a very, very malt focused discussion. But the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, we want to celebrate whiskey. That means that we need to find a way to discover what our community is enjoying that's outside of the malt realm.
Yes.
Corn, rye, wheat whiskies. What is it? Mixed mash bill. What is it that you are enjoying?
Yeah. What are the alternatives?
What will happen here, Ralphie, is the same that happened in 2021, the same that happened in 2022. People will say, you call yourself the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, but you've given us a list of bourbons here.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, there are lots of people out there that will only drink Scotch single malt. There are people out there who are much more promiscuous, like Ralphie and I, who love to drink lots of whiskies, different whiskies. We just need a pocket of your time to give them all their space.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to stick with the non-malt category. This is my first typo. Look, non-malt whiskey 2022.
22.
No,
Oh, it's the wrong year.
I can guarantee you. It's not. I don't have a time machine. It's just a typo. It's 2022.
It's all right. Nobody's noticed. Nobody's noticed, Roy.
First thing I noticed.
You've noticed. Yes. A bit too late now, but never mind. Use your imagination, viewers.
I don't think
Use your time machine.
It's not the OSWAs unless we've got a typo, right?
It's a bloopers, the little bloopers that keep it authentic.
Yes,
absolutely. Yes. So the nomination. Are we ready for the nominations?
We absolutely are. You can go whenever you're ready.
The nominations for the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Non-Malt Whisky are as follows.
Pause
for
a second. Sorry. Let's do this. Let's let everybody.
What
was happening to the chat there? Let's fix this.
Are you gonna? There we go.
Let's just fix it in real time. There we go. Right. Now I need to go back here.
Yes.
I think.
Stay with us, viewers.
No.
This is live.
Because then if people are taking screenshots,
yes,
whatever it may be, it has to say the right thing.
Yes.
Right.
Rightio.
We let everybody have a wee look behind the curtain there, but that's okay.
It's not absolutely.
It's just another bothy blooper, isn't it? Right. Okay, go on, friend.
For best non-malt whiskey are as follows. Blue Spot 7-year-old at 58.9% volume. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof 60% plus. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof at 64.5% volume. Loch Lomond Single Grain Peated at 46%. Wild Turkey 101 at 50.5% volume. And Wild Turkey Rare Breed at 58.4% volume. Aye, there we go.
Terrific.
Now,
so, after what I've just said, we do have consistency, continuity, but we do have a corn-heavy thing happening here, right? We've got 4 out of 6 that are corn-based, or let's say bourbons. Okay, so 51% corn minimum. And Elijah Craig's Barrel Proof, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Strength, Wild Turkey 101, and the Rare Breed popping up again. Wild Turkey 101 has been a previous OSWA nomination, and so has Rare Breed. And we've talked about how Scotch drinkers seem to be drawn to that Wild Turkey flavour profile.
Yes.
So we've got the Elijah Craig, the wonderfully well-loved enthusiast favourite Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. But up there, alongside it, my favourite bourbon, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof. In the UK and Europe, it tends to be Single Barrel Strength. It's, I believe it to be the very, very same product.
Never tried it.
Never tried it. We shall maybe try it together one day. It is quite compelling, Ralph. It's very, very good. Very good. And then you realise that Jack Daniel's are like any other producer where they've got this massive mass scale product in the number 7, but actually what they're making in the background is pretty incredible spirit.
Right.
In my opinion. Anyway, we've also, to mix things up a bit, we've got we've got a Scotch entry in there and an Irish entry, a representation from Single Pot Still Irish.
Yeah. And
the Blue Spot 7-year-old, which is a cast strength version. It's pricey. It's a pricey product from them, but it doesn't matter because you try and buy it. It's very, very difficult to get a hold of. It's in demand.
There's recently been more available. It's been more generally available. And in my opinion, general taste of the Blue Spot is slightly younger because I bought a bottle recently myself, but now I can't review it until after the OSWAs have been concluded. Can't even review it.
You can't even say what you're feeling about it right now. That's right. We cannot be seen to. It's really hard for us in these.
It's hard actually.
The pubs go out and I say, "Oh, can you talk about this stuff?" I need to change the whole topic. And anyway, it is what it is. But look, we've got another one in here from previous OSWAs. £30. This is the bargain pick here. This is the value pick here. And this is a very, very interesting whiskey. I've mentioned it before, but we're in the non-malt category here. But that Loch Lomond peated single grain is 100% malt. Because of the Scotch whisky definitions, because it's made in pot still and copper column still at Loch Lomond, and then vatted together, blended together, they cannot call it malt whisky. It has to be called grain whisky because it's all Loch Lomond spirit that's in there, pot still and column still. It is essentially a single grain, so it's no other whisky that I'm aware of. It's absolutely unique, and I would suggest as a flavour profile, it's absolutely unique too.
There's certainly some very interesting things happening in that distillery with their yeast explorations and with the far greater variety of bottlings than ever used to be.
And I think they've found a way to pander to geeks by bringing out things like this.
Yes.
And pander to mass market by making it a good value too.
Yeah.
The distillery releases as well, okay, much, much smaller outturns, but really playing with yeast, as you mentioned quite rightly. The in-house blending that they can do, and also 3-week-long fermentations and stuff. I mean, it's a dreamy time for us to have access to that kind of product in whiskey, because that's new. That didn't exist 5 years ago, Ralphie, right?
No.
That's a new thing. I think one of our lights is gone on the blink, but we can still be seen and heard, so it doesn't really matter. So again, quite interesting. Some continuity there, some consistency, but some new things to shake things up a wee bit. interesting stuff. What do we have next, Ralphie?
All right, so it's an interesting one.
And can we just elephant in the room it again?
Elephant in the room, right?
People are just start calling this the Springbank thing. They're expecting to see Springbank here, aren't they? Right?
Yes.
Why we've potentially, before we'd even knew what the nominations were, Ralphie and I developed a trifecta scheme. So bear that in mind as we share things with you.
Yeah.
So remember, we're here to celebrate the people that put available and affordable quality flavor first. That's who we want to celebrate, the people who bring the best experiences. Take it away, Ralphie.
And the nominations for the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Distillery are as follows. Ardnamurchan, Western Highlands. Bruichladdich, Islay. Benromach, Speyside. Glen Scotia, Campbelltown. Loch Lomond, Southern Highlands. Springbank, Campbelltown. There we go. Well, we start here. Do you know, I've always regarded Benromach as a Highland distillery rather than a Speyside region distillery.
It's got so much to do with the profile as well, isn't it?
So much to do with it.
But they brand themselves. You can see even with their logo, they're very deliberate about writing Speyside under it. And that's the interesting thing, is that a lot of the distilleries on the periphery, let's say some of the outer parishes of Speyside, they can choose to refer to as a Highland distillery.
Yeah.
Even people right in the centre of Speyside, such as Macallan and Glenfarclas, they're clearly Speyside.
Yeah.
But they choose to put Highland on the label. So
absolutely,
it's one of these things that we can't really get hung up on, right?
No, and we know it's the same thing with Loch Lomond. When you actually taste and experience Loch Lomond, it comes across really more of a lowland style of single malt rather than a Highland region. But this is really just the pedantics and the geekery, you see, of do whiskey profiles actually match their orthodox region? And really, within each region, you have so much variation depending on location and provenance.
The diversity of flavour that we are seeing today is not like what it used to be, when each region and each distillery had to kind of have a profile and a recognisable style for blending purposes. And that's kind of where the Highland and the Speyside thing was born. And of course, it was forever etched into our whisky geekery consciousness in the 80s with the launch of the classic malts. Which highlighted that, which was a fantastic thing to highlight. But these days, as you say, with the diversity within each individual distillery, let alone each individual region, I think it's perhaps we have to kind of draw ourselves away. But we like to geek out. We like to talk about these things. It's absolutely fine. What strikes me about this, I think we have only one new entry here.
Only one, yeah. Which
Benromach.
Is Benromach, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone has been mentioned in the OSWAs before. When you have something that's hitting the right notes, when it's putting product out there that's engaging the whiskey enthusiasts, the whiskey geeks, the whiskey botherers, whatever you want to refer to yourself as an enthusiast, these cannot be denied are the ones that's bringing the engagement. Now, there are people not mentioned here. There are people that's missing from here. It's incredible, and it's even a wee bit sad. But the OSWAs are 6. There can only be 6.
Yes.
And honestly, if it was down to me choosing it, I don't want to. I need to put it out there to a bigger group of people to distill it down to 6 distilleries, because choosing in 2023 is too hard, Ralph.
Yeah.
It's too hard to decide who's going to be there. Shocking that Ardnamurchan's there again. We're talking about a distillery that came about 2014.
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't really get up and running until 2015. That's how new a distillery we're speaking about here in Ardnamurchan.
And yet they've really, really caught our attention with the way they have gone about it. And in fact, for any distillery anywhere in the world, if you were to ask Roy and myself, which distilleries should we watch to get advice on how we should go about our distillery business? Well, one of the suggestions most certainly would be Ardnamurchan, in the sheer experience that they have in the industry from the Adelphi independent bottling house that they have brought to really nailing the identity of a new distillery. I don't want to be bigging up Ardnamurchan too much because see all these distilleries there, Roy, they all have their absolute singular merits.
Absolutely. None of them are like each other, right? They are absolutely completely different.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think the style of Ardnamurchan is strange because for me, that's a very outdoors whiskey.
Yeah.
That Western, that almost kind of quite brutal style of Western Highlander with half of it's peat, half of it's unpeated. You've got this really kind of interesting thing, but they're able to bring products that are just so flavour forward and compelling. And I could say the exact same thing when I'm talking about Benromac, their unique flavour profile. Bruichladdich, all natural, all the variations that they have within their house, from Port Charlotte, Octomore, and Bruichladdich. Glen Scotia as well, Campbelltown. Now, we haven't even seen them getting into their stride yet. The investment didn't come until 2014.
Yeah, and my goodness, that distillery deserved that investment. They needed that investment because it surprised me, Roy, that for so long, Glen Scotia, with its amazing signature as a single malt, has just been so
neglected.
Yes. Absolutely.
But that's not happening these days. It's cherished and it's been loved. And some of the most compelling experiences I've had with Glen Scotia, as in young whiskey, single-digit age statements. I love spirity whiskey. I love potent whiskey. I love flavour. I love that. I love to feel the whiskey as much as taste it, right? And Glen Scotia is bringing that, but the quality at a young age, I suspect, is only going to get better in the future. Loch Lomond, we've talked about at length how they are able to somehow have a foot in both lanes, have mass market product out there, supermarket shelf product as well, and yet still bring a compelling range and lots of other wee experimental things for the people who are much more of the enthusiast bent, right?
Yes.
And we can't talk about Best Distillery without mentioning about 3 times in a row they've been nominated now. They've already won it twice. And we're not just talking about a nudge win by a few votes. It was a compelling win. They remain challenging. It's hard to get a hold of. It's difficult to get a hold of Springbank still, but it's starting to stick, Ralphie.
Yes.
We're starting to see it hang about on the shelves a wee bit longer. The 10-year-old was available to more people recently than it's ever been. You know why? Because we've already hoarded enough of the stuff. We've not got space for any more at home, and it's not worthwhile buying it to resell on secondary when you're only making £4 or £5 a bottle, so it's not interesting anymore. So then
it's a good sign, actually.
It comes back, and we can buy it and drink it again.
Yes.
For us not to see Springbank in the Best Distillery nomination, would be suspicious.
It would actually be suspicious, yeah, because the one distillery that really carries Scotch whisky's reputation globally is a very small distillery that has moved with the times by not changing much.
And yet they've become super fashionable
Absolutely.
by doing nothing.
Yeah.
And they're belligerent. I spent a week working there, as everyone knows. Belligerently, they want to stick the way they're doing things. When they have to make a change, they agonize over these changes.
Yeah.
Because they are tired of seeing this wax and wane, boom and bust of whiskey. They want to make a product that looks after their own community and the long-term health and stability of their own business and single malt. And that, you can taste that in the glass, and I'm not being whimsical.
No, you can taste it in the glass.
I'm starting to sound a wee bit biased. I apologise. It's not my intention.
I mean, you're obviously, clearly you're steering people here, Roy.
I know.
We can't help it.
Everyone's going to be surprised.
Got to be aware of it, yes.
Everybody's going to be surprised at how good Springbank is, right? But there we go. Sorry, I just took them out of the thing.
Don't do that. You can't do that.
Yes, I hit a button. Let's clip it and keep it going. We'll stay on the same theme here. We're still talking about distilleries here, but of course what we want to do here with this category of Best New Distillery is we want to celebrate these new producers that are coming on the scene who are small, who are starting off at a small scale for the most part. Some of them are starting out quite big, but often they're owned by independents.
Yeah.
And they are able to design their own thing. They are able to paint their own canvas. And it's super interesting to see that with no exceptions that I can recall, certainly in the Scotch realm, they're all chasing natural presentation.
Yes, that's important.
and they are getting traction. It seems to be like we've just had Harris released this week, and there's a fervour for Harris.
Yes.
I think there's a suggestion that they've been able to sell 90,000 bottles in a few hours. Just a private chat earlier today. That just shows the appetite for these new spirits.
Yes.
They're still out there. People want to experience these things. And we've been waiting for Harris for a long time. This is the category that we celebrate these new distilleries. Take it away, Ralphie.
And the nominations for the 2023 online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best New Distillery as follows. Ardnamurchan, Western Highlands. Dimber, London, England. Isle of Raasay, Western Highlands. That's an island distillery, Roy.
Still Highlands, still Western Highlands.
On an island.
Yeah, we're going to have continued. I guarantee you, this is not the last time we're going to have a disagreement over the regional description of our distilleries tonight. Watch this space. Continue,
moving on. Kingsbarns, Lowlands. Lag, Lowlands. On an island. Lindoras.
Told you.
Lindoras, Lowlands. Righto. Back to you, Roy.
So we're right back into the swing of things here. We've got, from my perception, we've got 3 brand new entries and 3 that have been mentioned in previous OSWAs.
Yeah.
Ardnamurchan's the consistent one here. What's crazy is for the second year in a row, Ardnamurchan have been put forward for Best Distillery and Best New Distillery.
Yes.
We've talked about what Ralphie and I believe the reasons for that are. This is just the way that you're interacting with Ardnamurchan, and you're telling us that, or let's say the commentators, the people involved, there's no shame in them stepping up and saying, no, Ardnamurchan deserve to be spoken about again.
Yeah.
Nothing to talk about. The same for Bimber. They've got that core. They were one of the first English distilleries to really kind of make a big splash on the scene.
It's true.
And really make fantastically flavourful product. It's tough to get your hands on Bimber now, I appreciate, for a lot of this stuff. Most of it goes to the invested fans. But when you do get a chance to have a wee glass of Bimber, you realise, these guys are doing it well.
They're absolutely doing it right, and they've got an energy. They've brought a certain energy, because I first encountered them at a show down in London. It's actually a rum show. They were presenting some rum, and you always get a feel for how things are going, just chatting to the people involved. And I found them very articulate, very focused, and they had that open-mindedness and that courage to not just use a template, a standard template, but to actually do things from scratch. And that, I mean, the same thing for Isle of Raasay, for every other nomination. Yeah, because what stands out is the singleness of the character of each and every one of them.
Absolutely, totally different things. Raasay's got a very unique proposition there. All their water, all the reduction water and everything, comes from that same borehole. They're doing the bottling on the island there. One of the most gorgeous places to ever go and be in a distillery I've ever witnessed in my life. Fantastic stuff. They were omitted from the first ever OSWAs, and the community spoke loudly and made sure they were talked about in the People's Choice, and they've been mentioned ever since. Kingsbarns have brought I believe Kingsbarns to be bringing a real take on a lowland style, a classic lowland style.
Yes.
A very fruity, very light whiskey, a very clean whiskey. And their Dream to Dram was compelling for me last year, because I had a few Kingsbarns and they were all a wee bit young. These new distilleries have to make money out of young whiskey oftentimes. But the Dream to Dram, I couldn't believe that I was sipping full Kingsbarns. Fantastic. Lag Distillery, they are
very new.
They are. If you go to Lochranza in the north of Isle of Arran and you see these elegant, tall, giraffe-like stills, tall, elegant stills, and then you lag and you see these big, fat, onion-shaped things. Right?
Absolutely.
So they are going for a completely different, weighty, much more robust spirit, and my goodness, they've got that. There's nothing else like lag out there right now, despite all of these new distilleries coming on board. And Lindor's Abbey making a name for themselves as well. They're quite happy to go out there and do a very, very light kind of core range spirit forward thing, and they're quite happy to bring a lot of cask influence into the mix as well with their Oloroso release last year and things. Really quite interesting takes, and not necessarily sticking to that light and easy classic lowland style. So we've got 3 Kingsbarns, Lag and Lindors, all in the lowlands, as Ralphie points out. Lag is actually in Arran, which is an island distillery, but Arran is split by the fault line right through the middle. There is a Highlands and a Lowlands actually in Arran. So they are apparently a Lowlands distillery. If you look in some books, they're Highland. If you look in other books, they're listed as Lowlands. But 3 new entries from the Lowlands join our previously seen distilleries of Ardnamurchan, Bimber and Brassey. Interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
It's going to be interesting to see what you guys think. And if you think there's something missing in any of these categories, remember, you can have your voice heard through the wildcard, through the People's Choice. Okay, are we going to move on? Are we going to get to talk?
Keep the pace going.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about brands now. We're going to be talking about something that we are very, very lucky to have in Scotch, independent bottlers. You like an indie, don't you, Ralphie?
Indies are valuable. They really were taken for granted up until recently as simply providing eccentric versions of official bottlings unofficially, and that was it. But for the real smart and savvy whiskey drinkers, there was awareness that many independent bottlers were presenting an official bottling in a different format, which amplified and focused the intrinsic quality of the spirit itself. So it was presenting high strength, unchill filtered, natural colour, and the singularity often of a single cask, which wasn't until recently generally available and sometimes still isn't from official bottlers. And also another great asset to the independent bottlers is that they would provide whiskey from closed down and mothballed and even demolished distilleries, which were no longer available as official bottlings, or were never even official bottlings in the first place, because they were simply blends that were simply designed to contribute to mass-produced blends.
Under a different scenario, traditionally years ago, before the interest in single malt really took hold, these whiskies, frustratingly, would have just been blended away.
Yes.
So through the indies, to be able to enjoy these as singular experiences, we cannot talk about the rise of single malt whiskey without giving independent bottlers their place.
Yes.
They enabled it to be a thing.
And when you look at the American whiskey scene and the absence of independent bottlers, more or less complete absence, you see that it hobbles the diversity of flavors and experience that you can get from primarily the bourbon producers, whereas Scotch whisky has a rich and long history going back hundreds of years of independent bottlers who at times have really not been appreciated and valued by the greater whisky industry.
It's true. And there was a time that the only whisky that was ever sold was sold through independents, grocers, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we can't, it's difficult to overstate how important independent bottlers have been to the Scotch whisky scene. And this is why Ralph and I both feel that we need a category to celebrate the best independent producers.
Yes.
Who do we have in 2023, Ralphie?
And the nominations for the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Independent Bottler are as follows: Cadenheads, Gordon and MacPhail, North Star Spirits, Signatory Vintage, SMWS, the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and you've given me. I'll mention them anyway. Thompson Brothers. There you go.
Yeah. The wee buttons on the keypad are awfully sensitive, so we were giving the game away there. But most people are listening to your dulcet tones.
Absolutely, they nobody noticed.
They're not watching.
They're too busy. They're keeping a blooper count, Roy, and it's fine. We're still below 10.
Yeah, the more bloopers, the more genuine, right?
Yes.
Look, we've got a very familiar picture. As far as I can see, this is, with one exception, this is copy and paste.
It is. It's very much a repeat and reference to last year's nominations. And interestingly, you've got the largest independent bottler in Scotch whisky, which is Gordon MacPhail's, included with the Thompson brothers, who are arguably one of the smallest. So this is fascinating, and you've got a young independent bottler, North Star, and you've got a very old independent bottler in Cadenhead, and then you have a very standardized, predictable, available, accessible, and often good value priced Signatory, beside the more exclusive single malt whisky, Scotch Malt Whisky Society, who, in order to buy the bottles, have access to the bottles, you have to be a member of the society. But they do bottle most of the stuff, cask strength, unchill filtered, natural colour, and they have a huge fan base.
Well, I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. I hadn't realised just the difference in scale there. We've got the largest to one of the smallest.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point. Talking about Scotch Malt Whisky Society, you've just made the point how there isn't that diversity, that market, that dynamic doesn't really exist in North America for independent bottlers.
Yeah.
Scotch Malt Whisky Society is doing great things to take distilleries to people in North America that they would previously not been able to touch. The Manachmores, the Glen Spays, the
Strathmills.
All of these really quite obscure distilleries they previously wouldn't have been able to buy even in their biggest off license, or what you would call liquor stores in the States. The Scotch Malt Whisky Society is doing that. You're right, it's a membership service. If you live close to a venue, it's worthwhile getting a membership because it's a nice venue. If you've got a distance involved, there has to be other value propositions for you. But the rest of the scene is exactly as Ralfy summarised. I have to talk about Cadenheads. If you're in Campbelltown, it's Cadenheads. If you're in lots of parts of Scotland, it's Cadenheads. Nobody's going to pick you up on how you pronounce it. It's fine. But I need to talk about, they were, round about the time that they decided to divorce from Europe, they dropped off the OSWAs register. People were in a huff and they wanted them to not be talked about, let's say, for a while.
To be in the naughty step.
That's right. But they popped up on the People's Choice.
Yeah.
They popped up on the People's Choice. So this is the first time I believe that Cadenheads have been nominated in this category. And I for one, now that I know the story of the divorce with these European, you wouldn't call them franchises, but let's say the European retailers.
Agents,
they deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Cadenheads deserve to be here. As much as any other producer, and arguably more, and maybe there's an argument that should have been talked about in 2021 or 2022. Regardless, we're in 2023 and they're here. We see this is probably the most continuity we're going to see in the OSWAs. Why? Because this is about market reach. If you're Gordon and MacPhail and you can get your products out across the world, then there's a chance that the contributors involved in putting together nominations have tried your product. Yes. They're not going to nominate things from all of the kind of mid-tier or lower-tier independent bottlers who are struggling to get to the bigger markets. There is a flaw to this category. Please pay super focused attention to all the mid, lower, and smaller tier independent bottlers make it into the top 10 list in the People's Choice. That's where you can mine gold.
Very much so. That's where you can go treasure hunting. If you're careful, you've got to do your backstory, your groundwork. You've got to ask for advice. You've got to speak to people online and people who basically buy these bottlings, because the best advice you'll ever get are from other whiskey drinkers around you.
And ones that buy on trust, because they don't buy from an independent based on flavour profile.
Yeah.
They're buying based on trust of previous experiences from that producer. We're doing well, Ralfy. We're getting through it. We're getting still a couple to go. I think we're at the second from last. And it gets to one of those, this is an awkward and a clumsily titled category. It is what it is. We have to ask for forgiveness here. When we say world whiskey, it's the Scotch whisky drinking community, and maybe often from the perspective of Scotch whisky definitions and a Scotch whisky outlook. So when we say world whiskies, it's the cleanest, most efficient way that we can say anything that's not Scotch deserves a category. Here's what that category is. So the way we are defining this can be whiskey or whiskey. With an E or without an E, we don't care. And we're never going to pick up anybody on how they spell whiskey, right?
No.
It's just, as long as it's whiskey, it's in here. We do exclude Scotch. Why? Because Scotch has its own category. The best Scotch is the final category, and that's coming up.
And whiskey is, by its definition, a liquor, an alcoholic beverage, spirit beverage made from grains.
And aged in wood, I wonder if it needs to be aged in wood.
It doesn't need to be aged in wood. In Scotch whisky, it needs to be aged in wood for a minimum of 3 years. Because these regulations do not necessarily apply in other countries that produce whisky.
We know it. It's that brown liquor that's made from grain, and it's tasty, and it's brought a massive community together, and it's created even an awards system from that very enthusiastic community. Let's have it, Ralphie. Best world whiskies.
And the nominations for the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of... Excuse me.
That's blooper number 8, I think.
No, blooper number 7. They never noticed the 6th. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Here, filling my room with the sniffles here.
Yes. Oh, dear. I do apologise, Roy.
No problem.
Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best World Whisky are as follows. Blue Spot 7-year-old at 58.9%. Indri Trini 3-wood at 46%. Cavalan Soloist Vino Barrique at 58.6%. Nika Yoichi Non-Aged Statement at 45%. Powers Johns Lane 12-year-old at 46%. And Wild Turkey Rare Breed at 58.4%. There you go. That's quite a range. Significant range.
I have opinions here, and I have to be careful. I have to bite my tongue.
We both have to be careful, but fire away.
So this is all the contributors that got together, all of these people that led with trust. They faithfully put down their nominations and things. But I think this exposes just how fixed we are on Scotch malt, because there's repetition here, not just from previous OSWAs, but there's repetition from previous categories tonight in the Blue Spot and the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. So what we're saying here is that I think that this betrays our lack of promiscuity, our lack of exploration into world whiskies. I think there are new entries here. Okay, there are new whiskies in here. Now we've got the Indri that's brand new. We've got the Yoichi that's brand new, but and the Blue Spot is new to this OSWAs.
Yes,
but the Cavalan, the Powers, Johns Lane, fantastic though, and the Wild Turkey Rare Breed all deserve to be there, but they are repeats. I think
absolutely, and we have a repeat of a blooper, malt mates.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
What do we have?
Yoichi Japanese single malt, you've got is 57.5, and I've read it at 45%.
Right.
And I think it's at 45%. Just a guess.
Right. See, for all you screenshotters out there, I'm going to indulge you, and I'm going to make that change. You know what I'm going to do here? Rather than Ralphie come across and relax for a wee bit of lasagna, before we go live, I'm going to have Ralphie come down and do a wee bit of proofreading in future.
Do you know, we try and proof what we do, because I've written books, Roy.
No, I do.
And I've tried to edit or partially edit my own books, and you literally, some bonkers spelling mistake, you read right over the top of it, you just don't see it. So you have changed it. That's good. It's not nice and crispy, clean now. It's all accurate. And I'm checking everything else here, and everything's fine. So our comment would be, we have got some very good value world whiskey and some rather expensive world whiskey.
Yes.
So the price difference is considerable. The geographical spread of these whiskies is significant. We're going Ireland, India, Taiwan, Japan, back to Ireland, and finishing in the USA. And this is really the fact that not only are these whiskies recognised by Scotch whisky drinkers, they're really enjoyed by Scotch whisky drinkers because the experience is not Scotch whisky, but is relatable by Scotch whisky drinkers.
Yep. I mean, I think that there are some whiskies here that are kind of made in a Scotch style, like Scotch likes, like there's no doubt that Nika Taketsuru Masataka Taketsuru, of course, this is very much a Scot, but they've ended up with a style that's their own.
Taketsuru.
Taketsuru, Masataka Taketsuru.
I'm not even going to attempt that whole one because I'd end up sneezing again.
So we've got a style there that's very much fully intentional to be a wee bit like Scotch. We've got very, very cask heavy, and that's because of the climate, the maturation climate of Kavalan in Taiwan. I want to know who's able to run out, and I don't know who's buying and drinking £200 plus Kavalan, but clearly it's made it through again.
Yes.
And then at the opposite end, that tropical climate, I believe that you reviewed Indri.
I'd recently reviewed Indri Trini, and I was very impressed with it because I'm always curious about whiskies which appear in the British market completely unannounced. They just pop up, and there's no fanfare, there's no bling, there's no big marketing push, and I'm not getting pestered by agents who are trying to contact me to send me a bottle, this, that, whatever. I mean, it's just such a off. But with Indri, I saw it for sale, a really good price, and I was curious in the knowledge that it's made in the foothills of the Himalayas. It is wet season ice. It is very hot in the summer, and the result was a whiskey that tasted like a rum because it had that style about it. And this is what really intrigued me was, first of all, that every single one of these, and I'm not a huge fan of Japanese whiskey, as you know, for specific reasons, but Yoichi is a good quality whiskey. They're all of them are good quality.
I think that it's recovered now. Hopefully, most people have worked out that Yoichi has recovered from the time when it had to abandon its age state, and it's about 8 or 10 years ago, just ditched them, and then go into this really young stock, non-age stated. And it wasn't what we'd come to know Yoichi for. So very, very quickly, a lot of people disengaged, especially as the price continued to swell alongside the drop in quality. That is not the case in 2023. I know firsthand through a blind challenge I did in Glasgow with 60 people in the room that so many of them that came out on top. Not everybody picked it as a favourite, of course, but it did very, very well. So to see that coming out here, I mean, it's still expensive at £79, but it's not up in the £200 area.
This is important because some Japanese whiskey in the UK is seriously overpriced in relation to what it offers. And again, that's a bit of a turn-off. And I think perhaps the joyride that Japanese whiskey has enjoyed because it's simply Japanese and for no other particular reason, and that people would expect to pay hefty premiums simply for the premium of Japan, has now matured. People are so hypnotized by it all now, and the Japanese whiskey producers realizing the novelty is worn off.
And I think it was really harmed by a lot of bad actors stepping into the scene and putting really terrible product out there and making it look a little bit like the Nikas and the Hakushus and the Yamazakis.
It's a fact that the certain companies in Japan were importing whiskey from Canada and Scotland and simply holding it in a warehouse of sorts somewhere in Japan, and then after a short period of time, rebadging it as Japanese whiskey, which this has been done. It wasn't nothing illegal about it, but there simply wasn't the integrity of disclosure. And that really ruffled quite a few feathers as people get more informed through the internet. And it's important because there's some great content on Japanese whiskey to be found in the internet now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
We've only got one category left. We've covered 8. We're doing okay on time. We're an hour and 40 minutes in. It's going to be a bit similar to last year, which is perfect.
Yes.
This is the big one everyone's waiting for. Over 600 people hanging out to hear what the best Scotch whisky category is.
Absolutely.
How are we defining this? Well, this is the only category in the OSWAs where we say it must be Scotch. It's the only one. The rest of them, a good value, blended malt, we do not need it to be Scotch. But it's the only Scotch Whisky Awards. We need to have one category that's sacrosanct, right?
Yes.
To celebrate what is the best Scotch. age. So that's the one we save till the end. And we define it nothing. We are trying to find what the best the category has to offer. Definitely. I believe that value has to be a factor. Else people wouldn't be able to buy and enjoy and drink these whiskies in order to nominate them in the first place. But we are not putting any restrictions on this other than the fact that it's Scotch.
And this is an absolute banger of a category this year.
Well,
it really is. Let's share it. Let's share it. Do you want us to share it? Of course you do.
We've managed to get the continuity and to what should be a really quite varied category.
The nominations for the 2023 Online Scotch Whisky Awards in the category of Best Scotch Whisky are as follows. Benroma Cask Strength, 50% plus. Bonahaven 12-year-old Cask Strength, 50% plus. Glen-Scotia Victoriana, 54.2%. Lechake 18-year-old, 46.3%. Port Charlotte 10-year-old, 50%. Springbank 10-year-old, 46%. All right, can I just kick off with a comment here, Ron?
Go for it, of course.
If anybody went out and bought each of these bottles as an advanced whiskey collection, they would have an absolute top-class banger of a whiskey collection. They were magnificent week, absolutely. And I don't think I have ever seen in any category of the OSWAs ever an absolute consistent excellence in terms of quality and malt mark.
We can have no argument or truck with any of these picks.
That is superbly well informed.
In fact, if we were to critique any of these, it would just be pettiness. I think that all of these now, of course, I'm saying 50% plus ABV on the Buna and the Benromac. That's because these are annual releases, of course. We are not going to tie you down to the annual release that you can get where you are. There are batch variations in these batch released cask strengths, like every other malt that we've talked about tonight. The same with these. If you're loving them, if you feel that there's a minimum quality achieved with each outturn, then that's something that you can discuss and consider voting for. Maybe we should write various ABVs or something for that, but hopefully we get the point across there. Glen-Scotia Victoriana is not just a repeat from last year, that's the winner from last year, making it in again. Now it's a wee bit more expensive. This has gone up £5 or £10 a bottle since last year.
It has.
So that the price, we quote the prices to draw attention to dynamics like that. The Bonahaven is also gone up about a fiver in 2022. It was about £5 more expensive, I think, I paid over 2021. Listen, energy costs, everything, they're all under pressure. Tax hikes, when things are going up £5 and something pounds, that's not where we have a problem, Ralphie. No. It's when things double overnight. When new releases come out and are unrecognisably priced to the previous before it was discontinued or whatever, things like that we have a problem with. Look at what's in the middle of this. An 18-year-old malt, 46.3% from the Isle of Tobermory, the Lechik 18. Fully natural whiskey at £85. It's still out there. It's still there.
It's very good value. But I want to comment on the price hike, which is affecting a lot of these whiskies. And to put it into context, globally, from 2010 to 2021, the growing rates of interest were artificially suppressed. Meanwhile, the value of currency, global currency, has been devaluing because of money printing. Now, this is just simple economics. And this is why we haven't really noticed or bothered about the nominal price increases between 2010 and 2021. And then suddenly from 2021 to 2023, Britain is entering its worst period of inflation in living memory. And inevitably, we're looking at sudden price increases of many of our favourite malts and saying, I can no longer afford that. Or is it really worth me paying an extra premium? Or I'm just disappointed that what I used to be able to buy for £55 is now costing me £85, which is a serious rise in cost. And the reason that the rise in cost is actually the devaluation of currency in public circulation. And that's the reality of it. But the bottom line is we're all on a budget and we've got to get creative about it.
The cost of living that you've referenced there is it's really affecting us all. I think that's where we see the popularity and the opportunity there for creative producers to come into the blended sector and the blended malt sector and bring good value, flavor forward products at reasonable prices. I think that there are still producers out there. Springbank is one of them, and they're here, still saying that no, we don't need. They could, Ralphie, they could charge more than £52 and still fly off the shelves.
Yeah,
but they are so unique in their way about going about their business that we know that's a fair price. 10-year-old Campbelltown at £52.
And furthermore, I must commend Springbank for being, as far as I'm aware, the only distillery company who has sent out mystery shoppers all across Scotland and the UK to existing people that they supply in bars, on trade and off trade, and actually secretly checked how much they're charging compared to what Springbank want them to charge and suggest is the recommended retail price.
And that's not them trying to control a free market.
No, it's not.
That's them getting into partnership with somebody and saying, we will restrict the margin that we make if you step up in partnership with us and do the same. Charge a fair price and a fair margin in order to keep your business healthy and profitable and employ people, and you do the same thing. Absolutely. But when they renege on that, when they hike prices, when they match secondary, when they overcharge for pours, whatever it may be, I think it needs to be called out, and we certainly ask for that to be happening as part of the OSWAs as well, to call out this behaviour.
And it's also worth mentioning that practically every one of these whiskies is 46% plus, many of them at high strength, almost cask strength, if not cask strength.
Only two are 46, 46.3.
Yeah.
Leitch and Springbank, great value whiskies.
And 4 of them are 50% plus.
Absolutely.
Now, in Britain, the level of duty has risen. It's risen significantly because the government takes additional tax simply because it's alcohol, in the same way that they take additional tax on fuel and for your vehicles and on cigarettes, because they're considered luxury items and they can get away with it. And this price acceptance starts in the UK, but then it spreads out with the UK, where other countries are not paying His Majesty's revenue and customs duty, but they're still referring the importers to the British prices to start as a reference point for their own prices, wherever they are, whatever they're selling.
Wait, it's chiming in to saying something that I know to be true. If people see price gouging for Springbank at their local retailer, wherever that may be, notify Springbank Distillery and they will do something about it.
Excellent.
Springbank, they have been very, very careful to charge fair prices for the last 40 years. And to see other people make profit out of the business that they've laid down and really, really worked hard to bring about in the last 40 years, abused, it does need to be called out. The reason that we can't have nice things in whiskey and everywhere else is because of bad actors and people that are not doing things fairly. And
there have been bad actors, so much so that, in fact, it's appeared in national newspapers when people are literally queuing up at specialist retailers. And it happened in London, and the police were called. The police had to intervene and sort things out. And the same happened on an access road leading to a Highlander distillery. Police had to intervene to maintain literally crowd control. It's an ugly part of the thing, which it's real. It's a reality, but I'm pleased to see, to a certain extent, is slightly cooling down now, and I hope that trend continues. Exploitation.
What I hope that we've been able to demonstrate tonight as we close out on the final category is that we have still got fabulous variety, fabulous diversity choice. It's only getting better as time goes on. We're fighting price hikes. We're fighting challenging, cost of living compromises, everything. However, there are still producers out there that are doing their utmost to bring us flavour forward, integrity forward, fairly priced products, things that we can all enjoy together, things that we can all celebrate. That needs to remain the focus of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. It's easy to get wrapped up in the hype of some things, but what we need to try and achieve with your help is rewarding the quality, the fair prices, the value.
And it's worth noting that within all the nominations of every year's OSWAs, there have been some very expensive whiskies, which not even I would buy, but there also has been, within the categories collectively, some really, really good value whiskies for the price they're asking in relation to the quality that they are offering.
We've seen a spread, I think I checked it before we did it tonight, £27 to £200.
Yeah.
That's the bands that the nominations, within the whiskey nomination categories, that's the bands that we're covering. Anyway, I hope my helper, Rob Halford, is in the background and able to make the Online Scotch Whisky Awards website, oswa.co.uk pages live as we speak. If they are not live as we speak, just pause for a few minutes after the credits roll tonight, and you'll be able to go along to oswa.co.uk and place your votes. You can be reminded of all the nominations that we've shared with you tonight, and Rob has not made my typos. I'll wager. I bet he is not. It's going to be quite clean, and you're going to be able to refresh yourself with the nominations, ponder them, have a think, and then go to the nominations page and go straight in and register your votes. Now, don't panic, don't rush. If you want to go out and place your votes right now, you can, absolutely, but pause and think for a wee while. Even if you go in and vote right now and you change your mind, you can edit your vote anytime over the course of 4 weeks while that public poll is live. You can come back in under your same Google account, change your mind because you've tried something again, because you've tried something new, because something you've discovered is wonderful and you want to talk about it, and you want people to talk about it. You can edit your vote. It stays live until October 22nd, so you've almost got a full month. You have got a full month of being able to consider carefully and just vote for things that you've tried, that you would buy and repurchase yourself, and that you would recommend to a friend. Only give a meaningful endorsement. Only vote for the things that you can vouch for.
Yes. And your whiskey community needs you, malt mates. You're intelligent, articulate, informed, and you're buying whiskey, you're tasting whiskey, you're engaged with the whiskey community. So make your vote count.
Absolutely. Let's raise a wee glass.
Glass to that.
Another. I've only got a wee drip left.
And here's me got lots of my sherry monster.
I bet it's Amontillado.
I mispronounced it as Amontillado once, and I soon got correct. And this is great. It's great when, because we're not experts, we're enthusiasts. So bloopers are fine because everybody makes bloopers, and it's great when you see other people online make bloopers that everybody sees, and that happens to us. But I tell you what, we just roll right over the top of it because the show goes on, keeping it real. Cheers.
Before we close out, my friend, are you aware that you have an emoji?
A what?
An emoji.
Emoji, right.
Lee McDonald was getting a kick out of the Ralfy emoji, and I think that we should just close out by lighting up the chat if there are any barflies in.
Okay,
use your Ralfy emoji and let Ralfy see that emoji.
Listen, it's all emoji.
I
had online on my YouTube channel, I had scammers taking my emoji and then saying, WhatsApp message me on this number, right? Oh my goodness, that's horrendous. This is like some alien morphing thingy. Mind you, you look like you're straight out of The Simpsons.
I do.
Yes.
I do. That's right. That's a Gregor McQueen emoji. He created that for me. Listen, before we go, we have to say a few thanks out there. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all the contributors to make up that number of 65 this year.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for your trust stepping forward. We're just wonderful. Thank you for your time. We will continue to try to make it as light a workload for you as possible. Just keep us going with your trust in the future. Thank you all. Thank you hugely to Chuck Watkins out there in Colorado, who's looking after all our social media, not just for Dramface, he's looking after the OSWAs this year as well. Workload on Chuck is immense. It's just a daily grind for him. But Chuck, I'm very, very appreciative.
Thank you, Chuck.
And if you've noticed a lift in the quality of presentation in the 2023 OSWAs, that's down to my friend and sidekick, Rob Halford, who's been working away like a maniac in the background, working really, really hardly into the night to prepare. Think about this. We've got 9 categories of 6 nominations in each, preparing assets for every one of them, plus preparing all the assets for social media and everything. He's been working very hard, and I couldn't have done it this year to this quality of presentation without Rob. So thank you, both Chuck and Rob, and everybody
Thanks, Chuck and Rob.
Participated. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now, we'll see you back here on the 4th of November to bring you who the winners are. But in the meantime, you know what to do. You need to go and vote.
Vote.
Let's go.
Let's go.